Welcome to An Outside View. I'm your host, Dick Sicaro, and joining me today is Mary Ellen Jordan Mercia. Mary Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming on. Mary Ellen is a candidate for the June 1st election for town select women, being politically correct, as opposed to select men, they usually refer to as, and also an RTM. So why don't we start off by telling the viewers a little bit about your personal background, and then we'll get into some of the reasons why you're running for select woman and what you believe in.
I will. Okay, I have lived in Walpole for 42 years. My husband and I have raised 6 children. My husband is Ed. Whatever endeavor I have taken on in the community, in life, he has always supported me. I run my own business, and he works with me in the business. We work with usually the town, the local area. And I was in the Navy Reserves for 10 years. And I've also been involved in the community with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, as I said, running a small business in town. And also, I have many years, 45 years I've been in Girl Scouts, and I have raised many women to be successful and to learn about leadership and go for their gold. I also have had 6 Boy Scouts that I've worked with that have attained the highest award in Scouting, also the Eagle Award. So the food pantry has also been a passion of mine. And I don't know if you've been in town for a while, you know you received those bags on your doors, and the next week we came back and picked up food and delivered it to the food pantry. That was very successful for many years. And I'm very proud of that, organizing it and doing the townwide food drive. And I'm sure people will remember it. Was
Excellent. So it sounds like you enjoy your work.
I do enjoy my work. I love my work.
Excellent.
And I love volunteering.
Well, why don't we start talking about a little your primary reason for running for select women in this year's election?
Well, as I said, I run my own business in town. I'm a nurse. And unlike many people who go into the homes, I'm in the home maybe from 3 hours to 8 hours with the clients, with their family, and so we get to know each other, we get to talk, and they're always communicating with me how frustrated they are about the taxes in Walpole and how high they are. And I feel that our local politicians truly are out of touch. I hear it all the time. It's the only conversation we talk about, except when there's politics, an election, then we might talk about the candidates, but truly it's always taxes and how frustrated they are. Many of the politicians say we have a community that works well, that is, we have a good quality of life in this town. But a quality of life is not set by the government. Quality of life is set by us being able to do what we want with our money. Higher taxes and taxation causes us to cut back on things and not having a good quality of life. We have to think about, do we pay for our medications? Can we pay for our children's sports? The other thing we have to think about, especially with the elderly, and I hear this frequently because I work with the elderly, is am I going to be able to stay in my home, pay my taxes, or prior to retirement, am I going to have to move? Am I going to have to sell my house, move to a different community? And it's really heartbreaking to hear that because they don't want to. They love Walpole like I love Walpole, and they want to stay here. So I'm running basically to take care of all the citizens of Walpole and revisit the taxation and what we can do to make it more equitable.
Excellent. Recently I had Tom Brown on, that's also running for selectman this time around. And he brought up an interesting point that I was unaware of. I knew the taxes were high, but over the last 10 years, the town has raised over $1 billion in taxes.
The town has raised $1 billion in taxes, and when Ann Regasta, Selectman Ann Regasta, requested for them to return some of those taxes so the community could have a tax break and we wouldn't feel the full brunt of taxation, they didn't. The RTM's actually voted not to return it.
Right.
And then she brought it up again, and it was shot down again, unfortunately. But really, the truth of the matter is that I believe that scared them, and now they want to take our money and just spend it haphazardly, just to spend it, because they don't want to give it back. And that's a conflict. I feel it's a conflict of interest, and that's where I say the government, our town officials aren't transparent, and our town officials aren't connected. They don't understand what the real people out there are talking about.
Right. My last guest that I had on was Harry Brusades, who
Okay.
is a candidate this year for town moderator. And I'm an RTM, as you are, and Harry as well, and Tom,
Right.
and Ann. And we discussed how the $11 million proposed athletic facility did not have the 2/3 vote that was required to put it through. Can you share some of your viewpoints with the viewers?
Well, I'm really happy to share about, I'm really very happy you brought that up, because I know there's a huge divide over the fields. And first I voted against it. And people sometimes will get frustrated. But if they understand, I feel many people in town don't understand why we vote the way we vote and what our ideas are. And I will have a special page up there to let people know and be transparent why I voted this way, what happened, and I will have a special Facebook page. I will say I voted against the fields. Primarily, I thought it was a lot of money. I think that's where they wanted to put some of their money, the excess tax money. And I feel also that the town needs to address the schools that are crumbling. I took a tour last year of the Bird Middle School, and I will say I was appalled at the conditions of the school. Absolutely shocked. What the teachers have to go through to teach, how they have to make amends for the smaller space. There was some dripping water in the basement. I mean, that shouldn't be. We should not have that. And how can we build 12 million to 11, 10, whatever it was going to be, fields, and then not address the school? Yes, they are now looking at the Bird Middle School, and that perhaps will cause an override, but why couldn't we have taken some of that money and put it towards the renovation of the school? And schools should be our first priority. That's the purpose of government. The government's purpose is to take our taxes and take care of us. It's not their, how do I want to say it, job to give us the quality of life. Their job is to take our taxes, keep us safe, keep our emergency systems running fairly, and keep the schools up. And when we talk about safety around town right now, we've just had winter, but their High Street is horrific with potholes. That's not safe. So some of our money should be going towards fixing all our roads and the conditions of our roads right now. Right. I know I'm digressing from the fields, but that's why I voted against the fields. I thought it was a lot of money. I know the schools are going to have to be coming up with a vote on more taxes for them, and I just feel our schools are our priority and not the fields.
Right.
And we paid $4.5 million, I believe, for Jarvis Farm. Why can't we do something up there if you want to do something? Go up there and beautify that and make it workable.
By the way, that property, the Jarvis Farm, that was controversial as well, because that property was only assessed for $750,000. They paid five times what it was assessed at.
Why? Our tax money.
Right.
Just to use
exactly.
it. Yeah.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly. One of the points I brought out, getting back to the ball field, is not that I'm against ball fields. I played a lot of sports myself, but we have a lot of adequate ball fields here that need improvement that we already have.
Precisely.
It was the location, and there's only one access, no sidewalks, no restroom facilities. And I pointed out that maybe 1 or 2% of the Walpole population would actually use the facility. It's not a revenue enhancement.
Right.
And but 98% of the town or more use our roadways, and they attend schools, their children. So I agree with you. We could spend some of that money that they pledged to that field towards fixing up our infrastructure.
And do what they're supposed to do, take
Right.
care of the citizens of Walpole. And I don't understand how the Bird Middle School has deteriorated,
Right,
how they absolutely have let it go
right.
and gone down. Have you taken a tour of it?
I've never toured it.
Oh,
I was
if
out
they
of
offer
town
it,
when
yeah.
they
You'll
had
want to do
a
that.
tour,
You'll
but
be,
I
you'll be
plan
in
on
shock.
going.
Yeah,
Right.
good for you.
Yeah, I'd like to have someone on maybe from the school one time and talk about it.
I'm sure they will come.
Yeah, getting back to free cash, you brought up free cash or unrestricted cash, whatever you want to deem
Right.
it. I brought this point up to Harry that the Department of Revenue, who monitors all the city and towns and counties within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, they say that prudently a town or city should have about 3%. So if you do the math,
Ours is
3% of a $100 million budget is $3 million. We have double that.
Double that, yes, we do.
6.9 million.
Why?
Exactly.
Why? Because they think that it's going to make us look better, we'll have a better bond rating or something.
Right.
I'm not sure why.
That's one of the reasons, exactly.
exactly.
And they say they need it for emergencies, like they.
Emergencies.
But they took 2 million of that in the
And put
fall
it-
meeting, pledged it towards the facility, and then they were gonna float a bond for another 9 million.
Oh, yeah.
So it would have cost 11, and there's all sorts of maintenance and hidden costs that were gonna go into the field.
Into the field,
And they
yeah.
didn't even have restrooms built into the price.
Well, they had
or
restrooms, but now they've
concessions.
they were gonna take them away, and we were gonna have porta potties.
Right.
Yeah.
So another point I raised was that maybe someone could recommend anything over and above the 3% free cash be applied towards the next year's 2.5. Now, they're well within their rights to,
Get 2.5,
with
yeah.
Proposition 2.5, they can go up 2.5% of the assessed values of homes and businesses. However, they don't have to. So if you had excess cash, and they also have excess cash in the stabilization fund.
They do.
Like emergencies, if it's been a
They do.
bad winter and they needed more plowing costs, it's taken out of the stabilization fund. But I think, and most people that I've talked to, you brought up the topic of taxes, I think they deserve a break.
Oh, I do too. I think we all deserve a break, and I hear that all the time, as I said. Whether and now that I'm running, I hear it, people come up to me and talk to me, have a conversation about that.
Right.
It's huge.
Absolutely.
And like I say, I strongly feel the politicians in our town and the people running our town are not connected to the people. They have no clue.
Right.
They're
And,
just doing it for their self-interest and service. And
right. And there's a lot of elderly residents of this town that are
very
on
scary.
limited income, and they can ill afford more taxes.
I agree. The good thing we just did as our TM members is we voted to give a break in taxes to the veterans,
Right?
to veteran spouses, I think it's deceased veteran spouses, and to the elderly. And I thought that was very positive.
Right.
That was a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Let's talk a
I
little
don't
bit.
think it's going to tackle everything, but I think it's a step
Right.
in the right direction.
Let's talk a little bit about Article 22, which was the last article in this spring town meeting
Okay.
that went through. And when something goes through, they need 2/3 of the vote. So if there are 152 RTMs, they need 100 votes to pass something. But Article 22 basically addressed this green energy, and it was calling for Walpole to be totally clean energy by the year 2050. What did you think about that article?
Well, it calls for Walpole to be, all businesses and all homes in Walpole, even though they denied it, within Walpole to be energy efficient and sustainable by 2050. You know, I know some of this comes from the state of Massachusetts. The state of Massachusetts has mandated that towns actually come up with a plan and start working towards a plan. But I believe by 2050, we're going to have thermodynamic energy where the heating source comes from the ground. I think there's going to be so many other aspects out there that are going to be more reasonable, more affordable than what we're talking about right here in 2020, you know, like next year when it
Right.
comes up again. I feel that even if we cut our carbon footprint, it's not going to make a big difference. I believe that they're looking at looking at the water and working in the water, throwing some, you know, working with the sky and the rain clouds and things like that to try to bring down some of our CO2, carbon footprint. And I believe there's going to be more of that type of energy out there coming from the scientists than from the citizens. I do. So I see a future where, yes, it's going to, but we're not going to do it. I think the scientists will be the ones that are going to take over and create the change. And we're like Henny Penny, the sky is falling.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel, what I feel about it. Everybody's in this panic. And I'm not sure it's realistic.
Right, right. We have, the town has a debate coming up soon, I believe maybe Monday, next Monday
yeah,
night.
May 20th.
Sponsored by the League of Women Voters, and that's really the only debate that the town has during an election. So one of your opponents keeps talking about providing great services for good quality of life for our residents.
I know.
What do you have to say about that comment?
Well, as I said before, I don't think the government it's not the government's duty to give us great quality of life. It's the government's duty to give us good education, take care of our schools, maintain our roads and highways, and keep our facilities in good shape. And also, there was one more thing. Well, there's one more thing I can't think of, and I'm sorry. But good quality of life comes when, again, when we have the money to take care of our family, repair our houses,
Right.
and do what we need to do when we're not running around worried.
Right.
I have to pay my taxes. How am I going to do that? I can't fix this leak or whatever it is, you know? And that, you get a better quality of life when the government physically takes your money and does what it should and not ask for more. Many times in Walpole, what they do is they decide, excuse me, they decide, what will the budget be? And then they raise our taxes accordingly.
Right.
Instead of
The
looking,
tax of the max.
yeah, exactly.
Every year.
Tax to the max every year. And instead of looking at what we need to do, what really needs to be done, and then tax us accordingly.
Right.
That is more important and more proficient and more responsible.
Let's share with the viewers some of your thoughts on outsourcing some of the town functions like the HR department services, maybe regionalization of services with other surrounding communities. That's a current topic
Right.
that I hear a lot.
You know, Ann Regasta has been, Selectman Ann Regasta has been very good at looking at other options to save the town money, and I really admire her for that. And, you know, I feel very grateful that we have had her as a select woman. And she has made recommendations for outsourcing. Human resources, we can outsource ambulance services, and when we do that, we save the money that we would be paying them pensions, pays, and health and their health services. And I think that's a great idea, but the town is right now not totally in favor of it.
Right.
The other issue is regionalization. I'm really liking this idea because Foxborough, Easton, Mansfield, and Norton have all actually regionalized some of their services. And regionalizing the services, when you regionalize the services, again, you, Walpole, the Board of Selectmen voted against it, but Foxborough wanted Walpole in it, and a dispatcher for one of them would be regionalized. And the dispatcher service has gone up, has doubled in the past year.
Right.
And if we were part of the regionalization, we would not be looking at a double. I don't even know why it's been doubled. I don't know that we've had more input. I don't know what's happened. But I don't think it should have doubled. And if we were in the regionalization, we would not be dealing with this in the more expense.
Couple of points I brought up to Ann when I had her on a guest a while back, how to save money for the town, would be maybe have the finance committee and her fellow select people look at the costs associated with being in the Norfolk County retirement system. Now, as a town, you have a choice to either join the Norfolk County retirement system. It wouldn't be feasible to invest the money on their own because they're not that big. They only have maybe, there's, I think, 350 employees, so it wouldn't be feasible to do that. But they do have an option of joining the state retirement system called the PRIT Fund, Pension Reserve Investment Trust, that has outperformed Norfolk County over the years for a less cost of running the pension assets. So that's one thing they could look into. The other thing that's a reoccurring expense today is health care.
Okay, yeah.
Now, Walpole's in regional healthcare system, but they also have the option of joining the state GIC.
The state GIC is very good.
Right, and it's basically the same healthcare providers, but you're getting a volume discount because the state has 450,000 people in the system, as opposed to maybe a regionalized healthcare system that might only have 2,500. So obviously, the insurance providers are going to provide you with a better rate having volume discounts.
I think that's a brilliant idea, and I'm all for it. And I know the people who are in GIC have no complaints, are very happy.
Right.
And there are many ways we can go about looking at changing some of the services within town without hurting the employees or the people who work in the town, and still give them a good, still keep them satisfied and happy without. People don't like change. People don't like change. But sometimes change can be good and it can be beneficial. And I think the GIC system is a wonderful program.
Right.
I'm surprised to say that because when it first came out, I was not.
Right.
I was not fully in favor of it, but I think it is. It has helped. It's done a great job, and people are happy with it.
When I lived in Brockton, I was born and raised and grew up in Brockton, and 4 years ago we moved to Walpole. But I was on a lot of the mayoral committees, and we recommended Brockton, who was self-insured, to join the state GIC, and they would have saved the city $8 million a year by doing so. But what happened is some of the unions protested, and their reasoning was, it was like the tail wagging the dog. They said, well, if we do that, co-payment's going to double from $20 to $40 when we go to the doctors. I said, but your premiums are going to be drastically reduced. But unfortunately, it didn't go through. But I think they have to be more open-minded and look at other solutions to save money.
Well, I agree with you, but I think sometimes they scare people.
Right.
Because I don't see anybody paying on the GIC program $40.
Right.
Like I say, I run a home health care business. I don't see anybody paying $40.
Right. So it was a scare tactic.
I think it was a scare tactic, and that's what they do, especially the unions.
And you know, some of those, and the majority of them in Brockton, they had a residency requirement for only 7 years for public safety, police or fire, and after 7 years you can move out. Well, a lot of those people moved out of the town. They weren't even contributing
they're not gonna
to the infrastructure. Correct.
Exactly.
One other area I like to talk about that I brought up with Harry too is, and I've seen it around, is this citizens checklist.
Okay.
So maybe you can spend a few minutes talking about that.
Well, I don't know what Harry said regarding the citizens checklist, but I will be carrying, when I am elected select woman, I will be carrying the checklist with me. The checklist, I think, is really very important to follow. It stands for the citizens, it stands for accountability, and it stands for accountability and transparency, I feel. And I have a few of the checklists here. I think in 1970 and 1980, it was always on the town meeting warrant, and we haven't seen it since. So I feel part of the reason that we have this out-of-control government is we don't have these precepts anymore to follow. And so I could read them to you, but is it necessary, or is it something that is not really needed, or perhaps already being provided by a private or public party? like you say, the fields. We have so many fields in town. We could just fix those fields and put the money into those fields. Why can't we do that?
Right.
And I'm going to digress again, but people would text me and email me and say, well, you know, my children watch too much TV and we need the fields and we don't need rainouts. Well, even if we built those other fields, we're still going to have rainouts on the fields we haven't maintained and need maintaining. And I think that's an issue right here where we have fields for the public groups. We don't need to make another one.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that would address that issue right there.
Okay.
Can we afford it? Remember, there is no limit to what we would like, but there is a limit to what we can afford. And I think everybody who runs a business, who runs a household, understands that. And we have to understand that within the confines of our government. What will it cost ultimately? Oh, that's an interesting one. Many proposals are like icebergs. Only a small fraction of the total cost is apparent on the surface. So they'll say the fields may cost $5 million, which they didn't. They started higher. But they may say they cost $5 million, and then it escalates to some out-of-control number that every member of the town, or most members of the town, are just shocked, stunned. So we have to look at, and that's where transparency comes in, where we are honest and forward and have it straightforward with the town so they know. And nobody's looking at that with like, oh my gosh, how'd that happen?
Right.
Yeah. Is it balanced? Is it in the balanced best interest of all? Is it designed to benefit a small group or special interest while taking unfair advantage of others? Work for its defeat. I don't know about that. While taking unfair advantage of others and working for its defeat. I think right now in town, we have a brand new library. We have a state-of-the-art senior center. We have a state-of-the-art fire station and police station. I feel right now we need to just reevaluate the entire town and look at our expenses, our budget, and what our future holds, and not run into doing anything major right now. I feel we should just take, my biggest one is addressing the school issue and maintenance.
Excellent. So it sounds like that checklist is a pretty good doctrine to go by.
It is, and it's helped
And
me.
It sounds like it summarizes what you stand for in your campaign.
Exactly, and it's given me a vision also for the
Okay.
future of Walpole and
Excellent.
where I stand.
Well, we have a little more than 2 minutes left,
Oh,
so
okay.
if you want to say any last words to the viewers, look in that camera, and
Okay.
why don't you display your
I
sign
proudly display
and
my
how they
sign.
can get involved with your campaign.
Okay, I did the sign red, white, and blue. I
Very
believe
patriotic.
that exactly, and I said, and I really am and will be a voice for the people, a real voice for the people. I'm Mary Ellen Jordan Mercia, and I'm running select woman, and I even have my patriotic stars on there. I'm very proud of my signs. I love them.
Okay.
Exciting. And when I'm, what did
And
you-
how can they get involved with your
you can-
campaign? We have a couple weeks left
yeah, we
before the
can.
election, June 1st.
I will say I'm going to give, when I'm elected, I'm going to put out there my email address is mejm6@msn.com. Anybody? I have a Facebook page. I'm also, you could email me at, email me probably at mejm6@msn.com.
Okay.
That's probably the best. Then we can have a conversation back and forth. And I like that.
Right, and then I'm
and
sure.
I'm looking for people to hold signs.
Yeah, that's
So
always important.
always
Visibility.
important. I need sign holders. Yeah.
Right.
So just starting to make my list for that. So anybody who's interested in signs, likes to wave to people, talk to people, give me a call.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll
Or
be
email
seeing
me.
you out on the Commons in the next couple
Definitely,
weeks. and
Definitely.
I know you're working hard, and I know you're for a better Walpole, as we all are.
I am.
And I want to thank you so much for coming on An Outside View.
Thank you for having
And
me.
we wish you the best of luck, Mary
Thanks.
Ellen, on June 1st.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it. Yes,
right,
I'm
well,
looking forward to success.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Take care. Thank you. You too.